Thank you for coming and for this distinguished panel. I know how much it would have meant for Jamal and for his widow who is with us, for the speakers that we are about to hear. First, I think there's a short film which we're going to play.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أشكركم جميعا على الحضور.
لا في حاجة غلط كده والله مش طبيعي. هي عايزة تتدفع.
وسعيد بهذا اللقاء.
His freedom, pure and simple. He did not want to compromise his freedom for anything. It was invaluable to him. It was priceless. And he loved this country so much.
I wish Mohammed bin Salman all the success he needs, because his success is the success for my country and the success for my children and my grandchildren.
احنا يعني جمال كان فيه صداقة، وكان فيه إحساس دايما بالمسؤولية والأبوة، وكان في كثير من الأحيان يبقى جمال حامل همي أكتر من حامل هم نفسي أو شخصي.
Jamal has a smile which sometimes looks like a childish one, but it looks very innocent and very beautiful, you know. You feel that human element in him. It's not Jamal the journalist, Jamal the politician, Jamal the activist, Jamal, whatever it is. It's Jamal the human.
Yes, you are right. The problem in the Arab world, there is still some Arabs, even in leadership or intellectuals, who are afraid of change.
Hayatımda tanıdığım gazeteciler içinde en iyimser insanlardan birisiydi. Olaylara olumsuz asla bakmazdı. Ağır bir soruyu bile sorduğunuzda mutlaka bir cevabı vardı.
Right now in Saudi Arabia, we are going through some kind of euphoria that people don't think, don't question, media don't discuss.
Cemal'in miras olarak bıraktığı şey aslında insanlara bilinçli olmanın, özgür olmanın ve kendi inandığı doğrular peşinde gitmenin nelere mal olabileceğini gösterirken aynı zamanda aslında bu dünyada en önemli şeyin inandığı doğrular peşinde gitmek olduğunu bence göstermiş oldu.
Most of the people in jail today are supporters of reform, and if they were out of jail, they will be supporting him. There is no need to arrest anybody. I'm asking for people to be allowed to speak. This is,
yes.
I'm asking for the minimum.
We can't just let Jamal's story fade away. You can, and we hope will, hold the perpetrators of Jamal's murder to account, no matter where the investigation leads.
The murder of Khashoggi is an atrocity and an affront to humanity. We must honor our moral responsibility to safeguard the lives and liberties of journalists.
Biz eğer Cemal'i bugün geri getiremeyeceksek en azından kendisi gibi düşünce suçlusu olan arkadaşlarını dışarı çıkması için, serbest bırakılması için bir baskı oluşturabiliriz diye düşünüyorum Suudi Arabistan'da. Açık ve net olarak bunlar söylenilebilir.
Ne yazık ki doların veya riyalin kurbanı olanlar bu olaylar karşısında hakkı ve hakikati adalet çerçevesi içerisinde söylemedi.
Cemal'in vefatı inşallah kendisinden sonraki haksızlığa uğramış ve zulme uğramış birçok insan için ilham olacak. Bunun için elimizden gelen her şeyi yapacağız.
I'm here to tell the world to move, to help my friend, journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Where is he? Where is he now?
I'm 60 years old and I want to enjoy life and I want to be free to speak for my country.
Thank you. A year ago today, Jamal walked through the doors next to us into a carefully laid trap. Within 7 minutes, he was dead, the victim of a medieval act of butchery. His killer thought he could silence Jamal 1 minute and launch an IPA for Aramco the next. A year ago, he had the great and the good eating out of his hand, a tyrant at home, a reformer abroad. He'd done it before, he could do it again. But Jamal didn't just lie down and die. His murder became one of the most recorded of history. Try as his killer could to destroy the evidence, to bribe Turkey into dropping the case, nothing worked. Jamal kept on coming back to haunt them. Jamal's murder became a nightmare for his killer. It destroyed everything he'd done to sell himself as the future of his country. In sealing Jamal's fate, Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, sealed his own. Jamal still refuses to die. His message is more powerful today than any single column I can remember him writing. Jamal was a rare person in this region. He could see beyond his own camp. He had a restless intellectual curiosity. He traveled far from the comfort zone of his own thoughts and experience. He was exactly the sort of reformer Saudi Arabia and the region need. These are the people capable of modernizing their country. These are the people with vision. These are the people who are capable of turning Saudis from goods and chattel of their rulers, from subjects into citizens, into active participants in their own government. People like Jamal are the future. Jamal was a modest man. I imagine him smiling wryly at this reception and the fact that a statue will be unveiled to him. He had a sense of humor and he was self-depreciating. However, his voice has, if anything, got louder and louder over this year. It's being shared by the people on this platform: publishers, journalists, lawyers, human rights campaigners. None of these people will let this matter rest until the job is done. And things are changing. Things are happening in Algeria, in Sudan, in Egypt even, and yes, too, in Saudi Arabia. And we are on the cusp of change, exactly the sort of change that Jamal could see. He could see the embers of the Arab Spring still glowing, and so can all of us here today. So his message was a message of hope, and that is the message which we should carry forward today. Future generations will see Jamal as a towering figure of inspiration, and we should too. And we should not rest until his example is followed. Thank you very much.
Now
Turan, please, could you come?
Now we welcome Turan Kışlakçı, President of the Turkish Arab Media Association, to the podium.
Yeah, I will talk in Turkish language. She will translate in English. I will talk about Jamal, how I saw him on my eyes. Jamal, Adı gibi güzel bir adamdı. İyi bir insan, sadık bir dost, temiz bir kalbe sahipti. Sözünde ve amelinde samimi, kelimeleri ve kalemiyle eleştirirken dahi içten davranırdı. Coğrafyamızın kaygılarını ise kalbinde ve aklında taşırdı.
Jamal was a man who was as beautiful as his name. He was a good person, a loyal friend, and he had a clean heart. In his words and in his thoughts, he was genuine. And with his words and with his pen, even when he criticized, he was genuine too. He carried the concerns for the region in his heart and in his mind.
Masum bir gülüşü, neşeli bir veçhi ve dürüst bir yapısı vardı. Konuşmaya başlayınca kibar ve dikkatlice konuşur ve karşısındakini ciddi ve anlayışlı bir şekilde pür dikkat dinlerdi. Damarlarında dolaşan atalarının coşkusunu tüm halinde yansıtırdı.
He had an innocent smile, he was cheerful, and he was honest. Whenever he began speaking, he was always polite, and he spoke carefully, and he listened to the person across from him seriously, with true understanding. The blood in his veins was that filled with the pleasure and joy of his ancestors.
Cemal özgür bir gazeteciydi. İşinde profesyoneldi. Titizlikle ve ciddi bir şekilde işlerine sarılırdı. Arap aleminde gazetecilik yapmanın zorluklarının ve tehlikelerinin bilincindeydi. Gazetecilik ideolojisi olmayanların mesleğidir derdi.
Jamal was a free journalist. He was professional at his job. He was very careful and serious with the way that he took his work seriously. In the Arab world, he knew that it was very difficult to do the work that he did, and thus he was aware of the dangers of his profession. He always used to say that journalism is a job for those without ideology.
Vatansever biriydi. Kendisinde ihlası, vefayı ve doğruluğu mezceden nadir bir şahsiyetti. Mütevazı, kibar ve saygılı biriydi. Kardeş ve dost canlısıydı. Çocuksu ve munis bir kalbe sahipti. O hür düşüncenin kalesiydi.
Jamal was a patriot. He valued truth and justice above all else. He was modest, he was polite, and he was respectful. He was friendly, and he knew the value of good relationships. He had a sweet, almost naive, childish heart, and he was a pillar of freedom of thought.
Bu halim ve selim insanı 2 kez şehit ettiler. Önce onu öldürdüklerinde şehit oldu. İkinci olarak da barbar ve alçak katliam ile kanıtları tahrif ederek öldürdüler. Fakat şunu unuttular. Bu çocuksu kalbe sahip adam ölmeyecek ve insanlığın ebedi muhayyilesinde yaşayacaktır.
This wonderful human was killed twice. First, when he was murdered, and second, with the barbarian and immodest claims that followed after his death. But they forgot about this. This man with a heart of gold will never die, and he will always live forever in our consciousness, in the consciousness of all of humanity.
Merhum Cemal Kaşıkçı ile Türkiye ve Suudi Arabistan dışında birçok ülkede konferanslarda buluştuk ve tanıştık. Coğrafyamın çocuklarına çıkış ve kurtuluş yolu olarak demokrasiyi ve Türkiye'yi örnek gösterirdi hep. Türkiye Cumhurbaşkanı Erdoğan'a büyük bir hayranlık duyardı. Askeri juntalar, diktatörler ve radikal dini gruplar arasında sıkışmış halklar ve gençler için Arap Baharı'nı bir umut olarak görmüştü. İşte o güzel insan sözünü söyledi ve gitti.
The late Jamal Khashoggi was a wonderful person, and I had a chance to meet him many times in Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and beyond in various conferences. He saw that the region needed change. He saw that the region needed democracy, and he showed Turkey as an example all the time. He had a huge admiration for Turkish President Erdogan. He saw the Arab Spring as a beacon of hope in a region torn apart by military dictatorships and religious extremists. And that beautiful person truly said his last word and left.
Ve şimdi bizler bir yıl öncesinde onun şehit olduğu bu mekanda yeniden bir aradayız. Şu mekanda şehit olmuştu. Tüm dünya medyası da bugün burada. Geçen yıl olduğu gibi. Geçen yıl bu kapının önünde Türk Arap Medya Derneği olarak Cemal'in şehadetini tüm dünyaya ilk biz duyurmuştuk. Ve bugün bu mazlum adamın davasında adaletin tahakkuk etmesi için haykırıyoruz. Cemal'in cesedi nerede ve onu katledenler cezasını bulacak mı?
Now, 1 year after he's martyred, we are again in the same location, with the whole world and the whole world's press as our witness. Last year, the Turkish Arab Media Association was the first organization to announce Jamal's martyrdom. And today, in the case of this wonderful innocent man, we call for justice and we ask, where is Jamal's body? And will the people who did this atrocity to him be brought to justice?
Ayrıca Suudi Arabistan'dan bu binayı bize vermelerini talep ediyoruz. Burada onun adına bir müze kuralım ve anısını ebedi yaşatalım. Bilinmeli ki Fransız devrimi için Alexis de Tocqueville neyse Arap Baharı için Cemal Kaşıkçı da gelecek yüzyıllarda aynı duygularla anılacaktır.
Furthermore, we call upon the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to give this building to us. We would like to create a museum in his honor and in his name so we may honor his legacy forevermore. It should be known that whatever Alexis de Tocqueville was for the French Revolution, so too will Jamal Khashoggi be for the Arab Spring for years to come.
Ve son olarak mağlupların tarihini yazan galiplerin unuttuğu bir şey var. O da mazlum yüreklerin yakacağı ateşin bir gün zulmü yakıp kül edeceği gerçeğidir. Çok teşekkürler, sağ olun.
And there is one thing that the atrocious people who have committed this have forgotten. He too will not be allowed to be forgotten by anyone standing here today. Thank you very much. Now we call UN Special Rapporteur Agnes Callamard to the stage for her speech. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dear friends, dear colleagues, dear Hatice. We gather here together to hold our light high, shining our light into the darkness that surrounds still the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. Our light is our demand for justice, and that will not be dimmed. Justice must be served. And if justice is not met today, then we will shine our light still tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. Because impunity's darkness must not win, lest we fall all under its toxic shadow. Because turning our back on what is intolerable is not an option. Because no one should get away with murder, no matter who they are or how high their station in life, no matter whether they raised the deadly fist or ordered the deadly blow. We will not stop until justice is served. Dear friends, dear Hatice, we will not abandon Jamal because we also cannot abandon Ahmed, Eduardo, Jorge, Lira, Norma, Precious, Vadim, Daphne, or Anna. It is for Jamal and it is also for them and for so many others currently imprisoned around the world that we demand justice. Insisting on the protection and freedom of journalists across the world is part of how we remember Jamal and is part of what Jamal stood for. By insisting that no one, not even a power as influential a state as Saudi Arabia, should ever get away with murder, we are also standing up against any and all authorities that would seek to do the same, to kill with impunity journalists, human rights defenders, dissidents, and then audaciously rely upon the indifference of the world to provide them crude cover. To all of you present here, to human rights defenders, to activists, I pay you my respect. We pay you our respect. Specifically, I want to honor all the journalists and the media outlets that around the world have relentlessly investigated and publicly reported on the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. Your work, too, is justice for Jamal. My call to you, persist, insist, expose for Jamal and for the other Jamals around the world. This is how we will amplify our demand for justice for Jamal, amplify our demand for justice for the many others who are executed or imprisoned for their independence of mind, their courageous coverage and brave reporting. We will not forget, we will remember, and we will not give up. Please do not give up. Please keep demanding and shining your light for justice. Thank you very much.
Now we welcome human rights activist Mohammed Sultan to the stage.
In November of 2017, 2 months after Jamal was in self-imposed exile, he got a DM on his Twitter from Saud al-Qahtani. He was with me in the car. We were both on our way to my house for dinner. The DM asked that Jamal call him and give him a number. Jamal anxiously hurried to the house, told me to quiet the kids, and told me to record the phone call. He called Saud. Saud did not pick up. He returned his call, and Jamal signaled to me to start recording the phone call. It was 1 minute and 42 seconds. Just to give you context, if Jamal was not in self-imposed exile and he was in Saudi Arabia and he got a phone call or a text message from the right-hand man, an enforcer of the ruling person in that country, he would still be just as anxious. But this was a whole other game. He picked up the phone, exchanged niceties, and Saud told him that he was calling on behalf of His Royal Highness, Prince Mohammed. He told him that the prince told him to convey to Jamal that he had been following his work closely. He told him that he was very, very pleased with Jamal's tweets about the lifting of the driving ban that was enforced on females. He told him that the prince enjoyed when Jamal complimented the reforms that were being made. At this point, Jamal was holding up his phone and his hands were shaking. Justifiably so. And he responded to him, I saw a light in his eyes, and he responded to him and said, please convey my regards to Prince Mohammed and tell him that we are patriots. And when we see positive reforms happening in our country, we will compliment them and we will praise them. And then his hands started shaking more aggressively and his voice started trembling. And he continued and said, and when there are transgressions, we will positively and constructively critique. Just like the arrests of authors, writers, thinkers, and preachers. He started naming them off, advocating on behalf of people who were just recently imprisoned in the Saudi crackdown. You see, up until that point in my relationship with Jamal, I was very skeptical. This was a man that worked for people that put people like me in prison. And I was rightfully skeptical of him up until that point. Up until that point when he proved that he is an honorable man, a true honorable man. When he could have used the rapport that he just built with the royal court to call for the lifting of the travel ban on his children. Or he could have asked for something that was selfish, but he didn't. In his fear, Jamal, with courage, advocated for those that did not have a voice. He gave them a voice at the highest level when he did not need to. And from that point on, my relationship with Jamal became as good as it could be. You see, Jamal's story isn't very different from millions of Arabs in the region, dissidents and exiled folks who are living in perpetual state of fear of persecution, constantly looking over our shoulders. I'll give you an example. We stand here today. If any single one of us were to channel their inner Jamal, their pragmatic Jamal, and extend a peace offering, our hands with a peace offering to these authoritarian regimes, we would just be treated as their mortal enemies, and we would be just as targeted if we resisted them. Do you know why? Because these regimes are operating under the premise that they rule over us. Therefore, they get to choose for us. They get to choose when we are free to speak and when we have to be censored. They choose for us when we can be jailed or given our partial freedoms. They want to choose for us when we are traveling, when we can travel, and when we are banned. And even in exile. And even in exile, that they will hunt us down. They want us to be, we are mere subjects to them, and they rule over us with fear and with oppression. So we are left with no choice. We're damned if we resist, and we're damned if we don't. See, just like Jamal, all we want is a normal life. We want to live a life of family, routine. We don't want to go through this perpetual, compounded oppression with no breaks, where you have to wake up every single morning and check your phone if one of your friends or family members has been jailed, killed, tortured, or chopped up in a consulate. And again, as I said, what happened to Jamal is just an ugly and messy manifestation of everything that's been happening around the region. Is it now okay to start paying attention to the symptoms of authoritarianism, to the disease of authoritarianism, not the symptoms? Can media outlets, policymakers, and influencers talk about the same issues that Jamal got killed defending and shedding light on? Can we talk about Abdurrahman al-Sahdan of Saudi Arabia, who's been enforcedly disappeared since March 2018, and his brave sisters are going through hell trying to shed light on his story? Can we talk about Mustafa Nagar of Egypt, who's been enforcedly disappeared since September 28, 2018, just a few days before Jamal was enforcedly disappeared and killed it right here? Can we? You see, can we talk about the tens of thousands of political prisoners, the thousands of extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances in the region? Why has that been the norm? Why does someone have to die such an heinous murder and get chopped up for the world to start paying attention to everything that's been happening in the region since the fall of the Arab Spring? You see, if they can't stop oppressing us, we won't stop resisting, because one thing is certain. Just as they are set in their ways to enslave their entire populations, we will not stop freeing ourselves and others. We might not have the resources to hire the best consultants to write our speeches and to prep us for our 60-minute interviews. Maybe we don't have these resources, but we have each other. And we have good people from around the world who are ready to stand by us out of the goodness of their heart. And we are smarter, and we are not restricted by the limitations of power. And history is on our side. Yes, we deeply grieve those that have fallen, like our beloved Jamal, but the Arabs have a profound tradition that's summarized in a poetic verse. إذا خلا منا سيد قام سيد قؤول بما قال الكرام فعول. If one of us falls, another rises to speak and act as those that have fallen. So we will honor Jamal by carrying his message forward. The heinous crime committed against us was intended to intimidate us into silence. But instead, it was a lesson for us. It was a lesson for us in freedom. His murder only strengthened our resolve and cemented our belief in the values we and he held dear. We learned that it's okay to be afraid. We learned to speak freely and with courage, even when our hands are shaking and our voice are cracking. Rest in power, my friend. Your legacy lives on. Thank you.
Now we welcome Reporters Without Borders representative Erol Önderoğlu to the podium. Thank you.
Dear friends, dear colleagues, dear Hatice Cengiz, today we are paying tribute to Jamal Khashoggi, to whom the world owes justice. This is our moral debt to him and to those exposed to such horrific extrajudicial killings. Reporter Without Borders was present here for Jamal Khashoggi in the very first days of his assassination in front of this building where this heinous crime was committed just 1 year ago. Today, Reporter Without Borders is also mobilized in Paris, in London, in Washington for Jamal. Over the last year, Reporter Without Borders has campaigned for the creation of the position of Special Representative of United Nations for the safety of journalists. Today, RSF reiterates once again from Istanbul its request to UN to launch an investigation, international investigation into the Khashoggi murder. Today, we are happy to have among us the Special Rapporteur on Extrajudicial Executions, Agnes Kalamar. Her important report on Khashoggi murder clearly refers to a strong need to establish a standing instrument for the criminal investigation into targeted killings allegations or other acts of violence against journalists and human rights defenders. RSF deplores the reluctant attitude of international communities, which is not encouraging for a better world where impunity is not the rule. We call on democratic societies and countries to raise their voice, to reject any forms of reluctance, hesitations, or double standards when fundamental human rights values are questioned or challenged, in this example, in the most horrific way. Saudi Arabia should not be able to exercise the G20 presidency unless civil society and foreign leaders insist that it accepts the consequences, which must include guaranteeing press freedom, protecting journalists, and putting the light on this murder, including the release of more than 30 journalists remaining behind bars in this country. We expect a full accounting, and we think that sentencing perpetrators to death in Saudi Arabia would just be a way to silence them forever, to conceal the truth. Our organization remains committed until justice is made for Jamal Khashoggi. Thank you very much.
Now we welcome Amnesty International Turkey representative Andrew Gardner to the podium. Thank you.
I stand before you today, first and foremost, as a representative of the global Amnesty International movement, to say how humbled we are and how proud we are to stand with you today as the friends, as the colleagues, as the fiancé of Jamal, and how we will continue with you to call for justice. We will never give up on this. And our belief that the only thing that can guarantee justice is for an international UN-led investigation with the power to interview all suspects, whatever their level in government or position of power, to see all evidence, to be able to visit every crime scene. And how much this contrasts with the sham trial process going on today in Saudi Arabia, that is supposedly setting out to expose what happened. This process lacks the most basic due process, lacks any sort of independence, and is not in any way representing justice. It is a mockery of justice. How meaningless it is for the Saudi authorities to take claims of admissions of responsibility when they stand in the way of genuine justice. How meaningless it is when the Saudi Arabian authorities continue to ruthlessly, in fact, intensify the crackdown on human rights defenders, on women's rights activists, on journalists within the country in the year since their heinous murder of Jamal. It's all of our responsibilities to, of course, to call for justice, but also to be insistent in our unsilence against abuses continuing again and again in Saudi Arabia today. And as Amnesty International, we will not, whatever the silence of the international community in some quarters, give up on our demand for justice or our exposure of the continuing human rights abuses continuing every day in Saudi Arabia.
Now we welcome Yasin Aktay, former MP and close friend of Jamal, to the podium. Thank you.
Çok değerli Cemal Kaşıkçı dostları, hepinizi hürmetle ve muhabbetle selamlıyorum.
Dear friends and colleagues of Jamal Khashoggi, I welcome you all with grace and gratitude.
Artık eminiz ki Cemal Kaşıkçı ismi bir sembol haline gelmiş olduğu için bu selamlama zannediyorum yetiyor. Neyin sembolü? Cemal Kaşıkçı artık insan haklarına saygının, özgürlüklerin, insan onurunun sembolü haline gelmiş. Dünyamızda cereyan etmekte olan birçok olumsuzluğu deşifre eden, afişe eden sembol bir isim haline gelmiş bulunuyor.
I think now welcoming you this way is enough because Jamal Khashoggi has truly become a symbol of goodness, of truth, of justice, of freedom of thought. And in the world that we live in and in the world that we occupy today, it is this symbol that guides us in the work that we do.
Bir bakıma o her gün dünyamızda, özellikle de bölgemizde cereyan etmekte olan benzeri birçok cinayetten birine kurban gitmiştir.
Unfortunately, Jamal has become victim to a murder which actually has a lot of similarities to other murders in the region.
Bunun gibi dünyamızda birçok cinayet olmaktadır. Her gün Suriye'de yüzlerce, bazen binlerce insan vahşi bir biçimde sivil insanlar, çoluk çocuk, kadın, medeni sivil insanlar demeden katledilmektedir.
Unfortunately, in our region today, there are murders that have gone beyond count. In Syria, for example, men, women, children are killed without discrimination in the tens, in the hundreds, and in the thousands.
Mısır'da insanlar güpegündüz evlerine baskınlar yapılarak suikastlara kurban gitmektedirler. Hapishanelerde belki de yüzlerce insan bu şekilde katledilmektedir.
In Egypt, there are people that are woken up in the middle of the night to be dragged to their deaths, to be dragged to their jail cells, to be dragged to torture as well.
Bugün Myanmar'da, Keşmir'de, Yemen'de, Libya'da ne yazık ki İslam dünyasının birçok yerinde insanlar vahşi bir biçimde her gün katledilmektedir.
In Myanmar, in Kashmir, in Yemen, and in Libya, and in other places in the Muslim world, so many people have gone victims to such awful, atrocious crimes.
Cemal Kaşıkçı bütün bu cinayetler arasından bir cinayet denilip geçiştirilebilir mi?
The question is, can we discount this murder as just one among those?
Evet, aslında Cemal Kaşıkçı bütün bu cinayetlere bize tekrar dikkat çeken, bize dünyamızda olup biten bütün bu olumsuzlukları kaim kılan, bunları mümkün kılan bir düzeni bize ifşa ediyor.
In fact, Jamal Khashoggi's murder has reminded us of these other murders, has become a symbol of what we need to stand for in this region.
Tarih boyunca birçok cinayetler işlenmiştir ama bu cinayetler içerisinde ilk cinayet olarak Kabil'in Habil'i öldürmesini anıyoruz. Yezid'in Hazreti Hüseyin'i katledişini zikrediyoruz, hiç unutmuyoruz. Çünkü bu cinayetler insanlık aleminde, insanlık hafızasında kalmış birer sembol cinayetlerdir.
Throughout history, there have been countless murders, but there are those murders that we never forget, such as the murder of Abel through the hands of Cain and other murders as well. However, these murders stand the test of time because they remind us of how truly atrocious this can be.
Kardeşlerinin Hazreti Yusuf'u kuyuya atması da böyle tarihsel büyük olaylardan, büyük cinayet teşebbüslerinden bir tanesidir.
It's like the brothers throwing Joseph into the well. It is another example of a murder that history will not forget.
Cemal Kaşıkçı da cinayetlerden bir cinayet dediler. Bazı analizler duydum. Diyorlar ki ya bu kadar çok insan ölüyor. Uluslararası ilişkilerde devletler böyle şeyler yaparlar. Bunları da çok büyütmemek lazım. Hayır, büyütmek lazım. Cemal Kaşıkçı'nın cinayeti bugün aslında bütün bu cinayetlere, bu cinayet düzenine bize dikkat çekmiş bir isimdir.
I have heard a lot of commentary and a lot of analysis following the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, saying, who is Jamal Khashoggi? He's just one man among hundreds, among thousands who are killed in the region every single day. Why should we pay so much attention to this one murder? But I say to them, no. The whole point is that Jamal's murder has reminded us about how atrocious it is that we have forgotten the murders in this region.
O ölümüyle aslında bizi uyandırdı. Bir tür Kerbela hadisesi yaşattı. Çağımızın Kerbelasını yaşattı ama ölümüyle, öldürülme tarzıyla bizi uyandırdı.
With his death and with the awful manner of his death, he has reminded us about the times that we live in and the things that we let fly us by, the things that we allow to happen to journalists around the world.
Onu neden öldürdüler? Çünkü düşüncelerinden korktular.
Why did they kill him? Because they were afraid of his thoughts.
Halbuki onu öldürdükleri için, belki de tam da onu öldürdükleri için bugün onun düşünceleri çok daha fazla canlı, onları çok daha fazla tehdit edecek hale geldi.
And yet it is precisely because they chose to kill him that his thoughts are going to live forever and his murder is going to be noticed by a community much larger than what knew him in his life. Therefore, they have shot themselves in the foot by allowing this murder to take place, by allowing us to notice about the atrocities in the region and the murders of journalists in the region.
Onun için düşüncelerden korkanlara, özellikle korkan diktatörlere söylüyoruz, diyoruz buradan mesajımız. Düşüncelerden korkmanız sizin ecelinize çare değildir.
Thus we call upon so many dictators today, do not be afraid of thoughts because your fear of these thoughts is precisely what causes you to have these problems and to face the world stage and the world press in the way that you have done today with Jamal.
Kaşıkçı kendi ülkesinin konsolosluğuna girerken kendi ülkesinin yani bir ülkenin, bir devletin kendisine karşı bir cinayet işleyebileceğini aklının ucundan bile geçirmiyordu.
When he was going into the consulate of his own country, Jamal Khashoggi did not even imagine for a moment that he would be murdered on the very diplomatic soil that he was going into.
Çünkü devletler tabiatları icabıyla insanları öldürmek için değil, insanları yaşatmak için var olurlar ve yaşattıkları ölçüde de var olurlar.
Because states exist not to kill people, but to facilitate their life, the continuity and the happiness of their lives.
Bizler bu olayı ilk duyduğumuz andan itibaren çok değerli dostumuz, nişanlısı Hatice Cengiz hanımefendi bana bu olayı bildirdiği zaman, başıma bir şey geldiği zaman beni aramasını söylediğinde ben üzerime çok ağır bir sorumluluk hissettim ve hemen elimden geleni yapmaya koyuldum ama fark ettik ki bize haber verildiği anda zaten 2-3 saat önce ölmüştü bile.
When I first found out about this murder, when it was brought to my attention by the wonderful Mrs. Hatice Cengiz, when it was told to me that I was the one Jamal told her to call if anything went wrong while he was in Turkey, I felt the immense responsibility of that on my shoulders. But to my dismay, when I looked into it further, I realized that he had already been dead for 2 to 3 hours before her call.
Çünkü içeriye girdiği anda zaten ilk 10 dakika içerisinde öldürmüşlerdi ve gelen katil ekibin onu bir yere kaçırmak, ikna etmek gibi bir niyeti değil, tam tamına onu öldürmek için gelmiş olduğu, bütün planların buna göre yapılmış olduğu sonradan anlaşıldı.
Because Jamal Khashoggi was murdered within the first 10 minutes of his entrance into the Saudi Arabian consulate in Istanbul. And it is this 10 minutes that proves to us that they had no intention of questioning him, of capturing him, of kidnapping him, but rather their intention was to murder him from the very beginning. That is what they had planned all along.
Dolayısıyla beni arama yönünde bana yüklenen sorumluluğum ben onun hayatını kurtarmak için değil, onun davasını gütmek için, onun uğruna kavga verdiği değerler ki o değerler hepimizin değerleriydi, benim de değerlerimdi. O değerler adına biraz daha aktif bir biçimde kavga etmek için, daha fazla onların mücadelesini vermek için üzerime yüklenmiş bir sorumluluk olduğunu hissettim ve o günden bugüne ne yaptıysam bu sorumluluk adına yaptım.
Thus, the responsibility that I felt on my shoulders from the first moment that I received that call, I now interpret that not as a call to find him and to ensure his livelihood. However, I interpret that instead as a duty to honor his message and to further his message in the world today. He represented values that both I and all of us believed in, and now it is my duty today to actively pursue those values and promote those values so that I may honor my responsibility to him.
Burada en azından büyük bir mutlulukla şunu söyleyeyim, bir teselliyle ama çok büyük bir mutlulukla kendi Cumhurbaşkanımız, liderimiz adına şunu söyleyebilirim ki olayı duyduğu andan itibaren olayı hiçbir hesabiliğe başvurmadan, hiçbir hesap gözetmeden tamamen adaletin, hukukun gereğinin yerine getirilmesi çerçevesinde bu konuyu ele almış olduğunu size ifade etmek isterim.
Furthermore, with immense gratitude and honor, I am happy to announce that President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan has been a part of this cause from the very beginning with us. From the very moment that he was informed of this atrocious murder, without any concerns for anything else, without any hesitation, he too has been on the case to find Jamal's justice and justice for people like him.
Evet, bugün de şu anda şu aşamadayız. Halen bu cinayetten doğan hukukun gereğinin yerine getirilmesini talep ediyoruz. Halen cesedinin nerede olduğuna dair bir açıklama duyabilmiş değiliz. Kendi sorumlulukları altında bu işin cereyan etmiş olduğunu söyleyenler bize halen bu olayın nasıl cereyan etmiş olduklarına dair sahip oldukları bilgileri paylaşmış değiller. Ve bizim talep ettiğimiz şey hiçbir şekilde siyasi bir talep değil, tamamen hukuki bir taleptir.
Currently, we still have not heard any information about the perpetrators, and justice evades us. We do not know where his body is, and we do not know the manner with which this atrocious murder took place. Therefore, whatever requests we may continue to make of the Saudi Arabian government, they are not political requests. They are only judicial requests and requests for human rights.
Talep ettiğimiz şey adalettir ve emin olun adalet kimseye zarar vermez.
What we demand is only justice, and we promise that justice has not harmed anyone, nor will it do so.
Bizim aleyhimize bile olsa adalet bizi ihya eder.
Even if it is against us, justice is a virtue, and justice is what we aspire towards.
Teşekkür ederim.
Thank you. Now we call Nihat Awad to the stage, who's the CEO and co-founder of Democracy in the Arab World Now.
Good afternoon, my sister Khadija, honored guests. Peace be to you. I'm a friend of Jamal's for the past 25 years. The first time I met Jamal was in 1994 in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, when he was a journalist to Al Hayat newspaper. I wanted to meet this man because he was a brilliant writer, and also introduced to him to my organization that I just founded in 1994 to defend the rights of American Muslims in the United States. Once I walked into his office and met him for the first time, I saw a tall, round-faced man stood with his white thobe, and as we sat down and discussed introductions, something caught my eye. As I was sitting and looking at him, I could not take my eye off a picture framed on the wall. That picture was of a man in Tiananmen Square in China, standing firmly and defiantly against a tank. Photos like this, you won't find them in offices in Saudi Arabia. From now on, and from that time on, that picture defined who Jamal Khashoggi was. Someone who was willing to stand up for his beliefs regardless of the power in front of him. Our relationship continued for 25 years, through even the year when he just moved to Washington, D.C. in self-exiled. And let me just address Jamal now. My brother Jamal, this is the third memorial event that I have spoken at in London, in Washington. It has been very hard. Today, standing in this spot in front of the consulate in which you were arrested, detained, tortured, and killed and dismembered, it is almost unbearable to be here at this moment. God knows what would be done to your body as we speak last year. For that, Brother Jamal, you have been the martyr of truth-telling. You spoke truth to power. You proved yourself to be more powerful than those who killed you. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God the Almighty, to bless your soul and to grant you the highest station in paradise. They killed your body, but your spirit is still living and will continue to live. They silenced your voice in this consulate, but they amplified your message around the world. Several billions of people know who Jamal Khashoggi is and who killed him and who ordered the killing and why they killed him. Jamal, you wanted the world to know about the war in Yemen. They do now. There are actions in Congress to stop supporting our military and financing and supporting the Saudi military and the UAE military in Yemen. You wanted politicians and media to understand and act on the deteriorating conditions of political prisoners and jailed reformers. And now the world knows. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you a little bit about also Jamal. He truly believed in the rule of law. He believed in building institutions instead of one-man rule. He lived by it, and he was killed for it. In October 2017, Jamal sent a series of excited tweets. He had just attended CARE annual banquet, the Council on American Islamic Relations, of which I am the co-founder and executive director. He recalled talking to me in 1994 when this organization was still started. And now he was saying that this organization is the source of his pride. He wanted to contribute to civil society in the Arab world. And a few months during his stay in Washington, he visited me and asked me to help him co-found an organization to promote democracy and human rights in the Arab world, similar to our work in the United States. He proudly called it Al-Fajr, dawn, democracy for the Arab world now. The world now knows very well what happened to Jamal, but the world now is not acting fast enough to bring the perpetrators to justice. My friend Jamal, for now, you rest in peace. But we, your friends, and many others, We will not rest until justice is done for you and for others. And to the world, thank you for remembering Jamal today and what happened to him. But please do not forget the cause Jamal died for. Do not forget the many reformers who are still in jail in Saudi Arabia, including many women human rights activists like Lujain Hadloul, or scholars like Salman Al-Ouda, and many others, and also the issue of the illegitimate war in Yemen, and the lack of democracy in the Arab world, and the plight of the Palestinian people. The last message, the last tweet Jamal Khashoggi sent to the world was about the Palestinian people's plight in the occupied territories. Ladies and gentlemen, in concluding, the world needs to demand justice. If I can give you a small homework, continue to demand justice for Khashoggi. There is no justice until now. Don't let them get away with this brutal murder. We should bring him to justice. Don, the organization I co-founded with him, are pursuing legal actions against the perpetrators, including the one who ordered the killing. And we will not stop then. Support this organization. And also be like Jamal. Be a voice for those who their voices have been silenced. And be a global citizen like Jamal was. Care about other people. And make it a motto. An attack on someone because of their creed, religion, or color, no matter where they are, is an attack on all of you. That's how we remember Jamal, by protecting his legacy and by living his example. Thank you.
Next, we have a speech by human rights activist Iyad al-Baghdadi. Unfortunately, he could not be with us today and has recorded his speech for us to broadcast at the ceremony.
I tried my best to be with you today. Sometimes it's wise for us to know what we can change and what we have to accept. That's a lesson I learned from you, Jamal, when we disagreed about what young people should be doing, and you told me that they should not get themselves arrested. They should focus on their careers, focus on themselves, and wait for the right moment, because the dictators are going to keep creating crisis after crisis, eventually creating a crisis big enough that will be able to damage them enough, and then they'll be on the retreat. I just never thought that the right moment is going to come around because they killed you. Let me do something that I've never done before. Let me talk to you as one of us. Not as the regime sympathizer that I thought you were, and not as the journalist that you insisted that you are, but as a member of our community, as an Arab Spring activist. Jamal, years from now, decades from now, we're going to be talking about before Jamal and after Jamal. The only solace that we can think about is, had you written 1,000 op-eds at the Washington Post, it would not have led to this much outcry. It would not have damaged them this much. What's before Jamal is not like what's after Jamal. After Jamal, the lines are drawn. بعد جمال تمايزت الصفوف.
Next, we welcome Nobel Peace Prize laureate Tawakkul Karman to the podium. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. A whole year has passed since the awfulest and most humiliating crime took place when the journalist Jamal Khashoggi was murdered at the Saudi Consulate in Istanbul. He was lured into his country's consulate, where he was killed and cut in a horrific way. No country can do this. No country, no matter how brutal and barbaric, would commit this crime. Only ISIS only ISIS could do that. No country other than the Saudi kingdom could be like ISIS, emulate and inspire from it and inspire it. It can be said that the assassination of Jamal Khashoggi with such barbarity and atrocity has raised all human conscience and received the sympathy, solidarity, and condemnation of everyone in the land. Jamal Khashoggi's soul and blood was able to undermine his killers, and they are here a rogue regime, not rogue individuals. His blood managed to strike at the rogue regime a global isolation and undermine all Salman's efforts in polishing and promoting him as a leader of a new era of the kingdom and a leader of a different era based on urbanization and openness. The murderer, who is a rogue regime from the top of the pyramid, will appear only in front of the world's criminal and murderer, and his image will remain in their minds, that bearer of soul, to dismember the opponents and cut off their bodies. This is the eternal image of bin Salman in human memory. And this image had practically put an end to all bin Salman's political ambitions. It is true that billions of Saudi rogue regime have succeeded in buying the silence of international community. Unfortunately, great countries that present themselves as sponsors of rights and freedoms and leader of free world in a very unfortunate and painful process, but they have failed and will always fail to wash off crime and erase it from the memory of people with their soft living and effective powers, which is more severe and impact. Fortunately, the world is not government and official organizations. Bin Salman's influence and the wealth of his rogue regime can buy their silence for a few or all of the time. The world is a great people, and the vivid and soft media, human rights, parties, parliaments, and civil organizations who will follow the criminals, who will achieve justice for Jamal. Finally, the government that orchestrated the brutal murder of Saudi journalist and was contributing the columnist Jamal Khashoggi is now applying the same approach to my own country, Yemen. Just as Saudi Arabia sent a squad to execute and dismember Jamal's body, it has also sent forces with its ally, the United Arab Emirates, on a mission to destroy and chop up Yemen. The same rogue country who kills Jamal Khashoggi is the same rogue country who destroy Yemen, who occupying Yemen, who chop up Yemen. The same rogue country who bought the silence of the international community in front of the crime of killing Jamal Khashoggi is the same rogue criminal is the same rogue regime who bought the silence in front of all the crimes that happens in my country. While the war in Yemen and murder of Jamal seem to be separate issues, the recklessness and cruelty of the leader behind both atrocities have made them linked. And so justice for both crimes is linked too. And so the prosecution of those involved in war crimes and violation in Yemen would lead to the prosecute those who kills Jamal Khashoggi. And the opposite. The prosecute of those killers of Jamal Khashoggi will lead to stop war in Yemen. Justice for Jamal and justice for Yemen.
Next, we welcome Ayman Noor, former Egyptian politician, exiled, and a very close friend of Jamal. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لأكثر من 3 عقود.
In the name of Allah, for more than 30 years, I have knew Jamal.
جمعتني بجمال زمالة المهنة.
We were colleagues,
ووحدة الرؤية.
and we had the same view, and we were friends for life.
عرفته سنة 1987.
I knew him in 1987.
وكنا في بداية طريق العمل الصحفي.
We started our career as journalists.
أعدت اكتشاف جمال مرة أخرى سنة 1992.
We rediscovered our friendship in 1992.
عندما عاد من رحلة طويلة للجزائر كان يتابع فيها الانتخابات الجزائرية والانقلاب الذي حدث على نتائج هذه الانتخابات.
After he were back from a covering for the election in Algeria and the coup that happened and the experience that happened in Algeria at that time, the military coup.
في هذا التاريخ حدث تغير كبير في حياة جمال وفي طريقة تفكيره، وكان حزينا بشدة على فكرة الانقلاب على أمل الديمقراطية التي كانت بدت في الجزائر ثم انتهت في الجزائر أيضا في نفس الوقت بفعل تدخل الجيش في الحياة السياسية.
That experience really shocked Jamal, and he was deeply and in sorrow because of that experience, because that coup, that military coup, ended up the new democratic experience in the Arab world.
قال لي جمال في هذا الوقت: سأهب ما تبقى من حياتي دفاعاً عن حق الناس في الاختيار في المنطقة العربية.
Jamal told me that I will dedicate my life or whatever left of it defending people's right in choice and freedom of choice and their freedom.
بعد 18 سنة ولد حلم جمال مرة أخرى عندما انطلقت الموجة الأولى من الربيع العربي، وعندما بدأ جمال يشعر أن الشعوب العربية يمكن أن تحكم نفسها لأول مرة بنفسها.
Jamal was excited again 18 years after the first phase of the Arab Spring. He was more excited and he had enthusiasm and he defended the idea.
أعتقد أن موقف جمال من الربيع العربي هو كلمة السر في بداية الصدام الكبير بينه وبين النظام السعودي الذي كان يتخذ موقفا معاديا للربيع العربي، بل أنفق المليارات لإجهاض هذا الربيع وتحديدا في مصر.
In my opinion, the reason behind the problem between Jamal and the Saudi regime is the Arab World Spring. This is the password. This is the reason behind that problem and conflict. And in my opinion, that reason also is very, very clear because that regime spent so much money, billions of dollars, to assassinate the dream in Egypt, the dream of freedom in Egypt.
لهذا لم تكن مفاجأة لموقف الإعلام الحكومي الرسمي المصري من جمال خاشقجي الذي بلغ حد تهديده والتحريض على قتله قبل قتله بأسابيع قليلة جدا.
The status of the Egyptian media didn't caught me in surprise at all, because they hinted and say it explicitly that they really encouraged for the assassination of Jamal Khashoggi, even weeks before his death.
في 2017 قال لي جمال عندما حضر إلى اسطنبول أن محمد بن سلمان وسعود القحطاني في لقاء خاص معهم، وكان آخر لقاء له مع محمد بن سلمان، أبلغه باستيائه من تكرار زيارات جمال لي في اسطنبول وسأله عن سر هذه العلاقة.
And in 2017, Jamal told me that Saud al-Qahtani and Mohammed bin Salman called him and asked him several times, why is he meeting me? What about this friendship between me and him? And
جمال أجاب إجابة عبقرية لن أنساها ما حييت. كتب على انستغرام تدوينة قصيرة قال: أيمن نور صديقي، منذ 500 عام تجمعنا الصداقة ووحدة الرؤية وحب الحرية.
Jamal's reply was very, very genius. He plugged on Instagram a photo and wrote under it, "We are friends since 500 years ago. We are colleagues, and this friendship has something to do also with the view that and the status that we have."
العدالة التي نطلبها لجمال خاشقجي اليوم بعد مرور سنة على واقعة اغتياله ليست هي محاسبة صغار المسؤولين اللي قدمتهم النيابة للتحقيق أو للمحاكمة، ولا حتى محاسبة سعود القحطاني، ولا حتى محاسبة الذي حرض على هذه الجريمة محمد بن سلمان.
In my opinion, the request and demand for justice in the name of Jamal Khashoggi and his cause is not at all calling for a judging or taking to court those people who committed the tools, the middle officers, or even that decision made by the public general prosecution. It's not at all like that, or even bringing to court Muhammad al-Qahtani or Saud al-Qahtani or Mohammed bin Salman. This is not the idea or the case.
العدالة التي نطلبها لجمال هي الانتصار للقضية التي منح جمال حياته وضحى بعمره دفاعا عنها، وهي قضية الحرية، قضية الديمقراطية في هذه المنطقة العربية.
But justice for Jamal, it means supporting the cause that he sacrificed his life in the name of it. And this is the cause of freedom in our Arab world.
أقول لصديقي جمال بعد عام من غيابه أنه ما زال حاضراً في القلب وفي العقل.
Oh Jamal, you are with us in our minds, in our heart.
أقول لصديقي جمال أن أول لحظة حزن على الديمقراطية عندما شعرت بها سنة 92 في الجزائر، أن الجزائر الآن تنتصر مرة أخرى للديمقراطية وتبدأ الموجة الثانية من الربيع العربي.
Oh Jamal, there is good news for you. That moment when we were very sad because of the problem that happened in Algeria and the death of democracy, now we have the dream again, dream of democracy.
أيضا في السودان التي عاشت سنوات في ظل استبداد وقهر، هي أيضا تنضم إلى قطار الموجة الثانية للربيع العربي.
Oh Jamal, also Sudan joined our trail to freedom, to democracy. That country that had very, very vicious coups against democracy. Now it has a different experience. It has Eid.
وأنا متأكد أن جمال وروح جمال سعيدة في الأيام الأخيرة بأن مصر أيضا تلحق بقطار الثورة أو الربيع العربي في موجته الثانية.
Jamal, I believe you are happy now because we are in the second phase of the Arab Spring. We are doing it. We are on the success train toward the freedom and democracy.
كان دائما جمال يؤمن أن مصر هي بوابة الحرية والديمقراطية لهذه المنطقة.
Jamal thought that Egypt is the gate for freedom and democracy.
وأقول لجمال اليوم أن بلاده نفسها ستلحق بقطار الحرية وبقطار الربيع العربي بعد أن فشل من قتلوا جمال في كل خطواتهم، فشلوا في كل ما تصوروا أنه يدعم حكمهم أو إنجازاتهم.
Oh Jamal, you should be happy also. Your country now is catching up the train for freedom. Those people who tried to kill our dream and your dream are now or almost living or having the same experience that you died for.
سلام عليك صديقي من ثوار الجزائر.
Peace be upon you. Rest in peace. This is a call from Algeria revolutionists.
سلام عليك من أحرار السودان ومن شباب مصر.
Peace be upon you from Sudan revolutionists and from the youth of Egypt.
سيبقى دمك يا جمال وقودا للثورة، للحرية، للمبادئ.
Oh Jamal, your blood will be fuel for revolution, freedom, and
صدقت يا صديقي عندما قلت أن عمر صداقتنا 500 سنة. سأظل أنا وأولادي وأحفادي وأجيال قادمة مدينين لك بالحرية التي كنت دائما تحلم وتعمل من أجلها.
Oh Jamal, friend of my life, my dear friend, you were right. You said our friendship age is about 500 years. I will be, and my children, and my grandchildren, remember you for centuries to come, and we thank you.
أعدك يا صديقي أننا سيأتي يوم قريب نأتي إلى هنا، إلى المكان الذي فقدت فيه حياتك، كي نحتفل معا بعودة الحرية إلى بلادنا العربية من مشرقها إلى مغربها.
Oh Jamal, finally, I promise you that in one day we will come again to this place, very place that you lost your life in, that you were assassinated in. We will come all together, your friends and the people who loved you, to celebrate victory for the principles that you paid and dedicated your life a price for it.
سلام عليك يا جمال ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Oh Jamal, rest in peace.
Next, we welcome former Al Jazeera director and Al-Shaq Forum president Wada Kamfar to the podium. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. If Jamal was with us today, he would have said the following: I am proud to be a journalist. I am proud to belong to this profession that stood for the cause of freedom and democracy and demanding justice for Jamal and for those who Jamal stood for. Thank you all. All of us today have become the voice that Jamal wanted the world to hear. They wanted him not to have a grave. But eventually, in every heart, he has today a shrine. They wanted him to disappear, but his image and his voice is chasing them everywhere. Now I give you the good news. The best allies for revolution are dictators, because they are very, very stupid. And the ones that we have in the Arab world have extra stupidity. So today, 1 year later, the good news is that the second phase of the Arab Spring has started. Jamal has predicted this, and Jamal didn't know that his murder will be a trigger of something huge and big like this one. The voices of everyone around us, in the streets of our cities, in the valleys and the mountains of the Arab world, and across the world, of those who understand the meaning of freedom as a way of life and as a cost of death as well, is continuing. Thank you all. Thank you for those who have joined us from all over the world today to stand here and to say that we shall never forget Jamal, neither we are going to forget the cause and mission that Jamal stood for. Thank you very much.
Next, we welcome the publisher and CEO of the Washington Post, Fred Ryan. Thank you.
It's an honor to be here today with so many people whose lives have been touched by Jamal Khashoggi. I'm also grateful to be on this stage with so many champions of press freedom. We appreciate the work that all of you do every day to promote the safety and independence of journalists in every country. At the Washington Post, we deeply mourn Jamal's loss. His readers knew him as a talented columnist, and those who worked with him knew him as a trusted colleague and a dear friend. It is meaningful that we are joined today by Jeff Bezos, the owner of the Washington Post. Jeff has been resolute in standing for courageous and independent journalism around the world. I would especially like to thank Hatice, a brave woman whose time of great joy was transformed into a terrifying nightmare. From the depths of your anguish, you found incredible strength and determination. You have searched unceasingly for answers about Jamal's murder and have done everything in your power to spread his message about the importance of a free press. Your dedication has inspired us all. As others have so eloquently stated, this is a dark moment for those who depend on the work of a free press. Journalists are under threat, not only in this region, but around the world. They encounter censorship, harassment, and violence for doing a job that is essential to our freedom. In every part of the world, authoritarian rulers are increasing their grip on the press, trying to prevent reporters from holding the powerful to account. Even in the United States, which was always a champion of press freedom, the government has shown rising levels of hostility. Leaders across the globe must know and understand that journalists are not enemies of the people. As Jamal's work so clearly showed, journalists are servants of the people and the democratic principles that empower the people. When people have access only to information that supplied or approved by their governments, their worlds and possibilities are limited to what the government allows them to know. The only way to escape this tyranny, the only way to have free and independent lives, is to guarantee free and independent journalism. After Jamal's killing and the indifference some world leaders have shown, it may be tempting to become cynical or even defeatist. But it is worth remembering an important lesson from history. Sometimes a single event can ignite a movement. It can be a catalyst that brings about sweeping changes that endure for generations. Standing here so close to the site of an act of pure evil is not easy for any of us, because the sorrow we feel over Jamal's killing is every bit as real today as it was 1 year ago. But as we gather at this memorial to honor Jamal's life, let's commit here and now to making this a catalyzing moment. Let Jamal's life and its taking advance a movement that strengthens human rights and expands press freedom across the globe. All of us can start by remaining relentless in pursuit of the truth about Jamal's killing. Just as he showed courage and resolve in his journalism, we must remain fearless and steadfast in demanding accountability for his murder. For journalists, carrying forward Jamal's legacy means not be intimidated into silence. That is exactly what those behind Jamal's assassination want. That is why they killed him. Instead, journalists must keep asking the next question, keep digging into corruption, keep demanding responsibilities for crimes and abuses of power. Journalists put their lives at risk every day because of the conflict zones they cover, the powerful people they challenge, and the wrongdoings they reveal. One way we can honor Jamal is to stand up for these men and women today and every day from now on. Their safety must be protected. Their questions to the powerful must be answered. They must be supported and defended as they go about the work that safeguards our freedom. We will never forget Jamal Khashoggi. Never. His killing is an incalculable loss for those who knew him and loved him. But if we remain vigilant in defense of press freedom, the work for which he gave his life can leave a lasting contribution to the world in the form of deeper respect for liberty, human rights, and the truth.
Next, we are honored to welcome American entrepreneur, investor, philanthropist, and owner of the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos, to the podium.
Hatisha, no one should ever have to endure what you did. Right here, where you are, you paced that street for hours, pacing and waiting. And he never came out. It is unimaginable. And you need to know that you are in our hearts. We are here, and you are not alone.
Finally, we are honored to welcome Hatice Cengiz, the fiancée of the late Jamal Khashoggi. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today. I am at peace when I see you all. All these amazing and beautiful people know Jamal as a journalist, as a writer, as an activist, and a great friend and human being. But to me, he was much more than that. He was my best friend. he was the love of my life. I still love him. I remember how he had so much to say, but he was a great listener. He was supposed to be my guide in life. In his life and work, he was always calling for better conditions for people in his country. He was a prominent voice calling for freedom of expression and more accountability of the state. Why he didn't succeed in his life is happening now in his death. All the world's eyes are on the kingdom. And this issue, these disagreements, follows them everywhere. Last year today, I was standing here. I was a girl in law waiting for my man to come out of the consulate. We wanted to go to dinner. We wanted to invite our friends to our wedding. Now, after a worst year in my life, I stand here, broken but proud. Proud to see you all here, and with you all I still seek justice. I want to know what happened to his body. I want his friends to be released from jails. I want that those in power are held accountable for their actions. Thank you so much. Now, I invite you to join me and unveil a small state stone dedicated to Jamal's memory, I think inside the garden. Yeah, inside the garden.
Thank you, everyone. We ask that you please remain seated while our speakers make their way to Jamal's memorial stone. For security reasons, we cannot allow any press into the grass area. Please remain seated. Members of the press, please allow our speakers to walk through without any issues. Please give them some space while they make their way to the memorial stone. Thank you.